Hello, my brothers and sisters, and welcome to another episode of Off the Beaten Path. Are you as excited as I am? As always, I'm your host, Rev.hagen, and as always, I'd like to welcome our listeners at SCRMradio.com. That's Scream. Radio.com for all your horror and paranormal needs. Now, my brothers and sisters, our last show was on a possible UFO flap since the coronavirus has hit, right? I talked about three different friends. They had three different experiences. Really only had footage of one from Oregon, although there was another witness in the Bay Area and another witness in Ohio. Well, at the end of that show, I asked people to send me any stories that they had, any sightings that they may have had of UFOs since the virus started. And then I went a little further and said, if you've had any paranormal experiences, please go ahead and forward them to me at rev.hagen, rev.hagen, rev.hagen at gmail.com, right? Well, I didn't get very many UFO stories, to be honest with you. Not enough to justify another show on it. But I did get a lot of paranormal experiences that people had had. So I'm going to go ahead and do a show telling these experiences. Again, I'm not going to tell the people, I'm not going to out any of the people that had these experiences. But I am going to tell you a few of the experiences that had happened in another show. On this show, as I was looking for different UFO events that had happened since the coronavirus, I found two amazing videos of UFOs that had been around for a little while, but I had never seen them. And I was absolutely blown away. UFOs are not necessarily my focus in the paranormal. I focus more on ghosts, legends, demons, history, and through like investigations that I've done with our group, Where Angels Fear to Tread, whose Facebook page is in the comments below, or is in the description below, along with my email address. So I found these two, and I wanted to play them for you because they absolutely blew me away. One looked familiar, but I didn't remember it in this resolution. So I'm going to go ahead and play this video. It's very, very exciting. If I can find it here. Here we go. Now, this first one is of two UFOs going across the moon. And here we go. Now you can see them in the sunlight. You can see the shadows crossing the moon. And then they go into the shadow of the moon itself, right? This is absolutely amazing to me because of the size of the moon. When you see those shadows, these things have to be colossal. They have to be absolutely huge. I was blown away by it. This is from a astronomer in Montreal, Canada. Excuse me, my brain skipped a groove there for a second. In Montreal, Canada. He did not want to be identified because, like I've said before, people don't want to be that guy or that girl, the UFO guy, the UFO girl. This guy wasn't looking for UFOs. He was just doing some really cool filming of the moon and happened to catch these. All right, now this next one, we've talked about triangle-shaped UFOs. We've talked about cube-shaped UFOs, and the few times I've mentioned UFOs. These are pyramid-shaped UFOs that appeared in Russia in 2009. Pretty amazing footage. And now you're seeing a triangular-shaped UFO over the Pentagon. Now, around the same time that this appeared in 2018, this triangular-shaped UFO over the Pentagon, there was this footage leaked, this video, that supposedly shows a closed-door meeting of the UN in New York. Now, the woman that's about to speak, her name is, and I'm going to butcher it, I'm going to need my specs, I'm sorry. Hope this doesn't affect the focus too much. Her name is, oh dear Lord, I'm going to destroy it. Alea Provoco, and she's the founder of a private space company called Galactica. So when this thing first leaked, nobody knew who this woman was. And then it came out she actually is the CEO of a private space corporation about space exploration called Galactica. So now we get to our main story of the evening, all right? What I'm going to be telling you about is Bachelors Grove Cemetery. I'm going to give you a little background on it here, okay? It's located in Chicago suburbs. It's hidden from the city by the nearby Rubio Woods Forest Preserve. It lies abandoned and is widely believed to be the most haunted place in the region and the most haunted cemetery in the world. Thank you very much. Over the years, there have been more than 100 different hauntings and different sightings, from floating orbs above gravestones to a phantom farmhouse to a two-headed ghost, which we'll talk about in a little bit, and a whole lot more. This thing is outrageous. And it's also kind of become like a ghost hunting tourist area. So if you're ever in Chicago and you want to see the most haunted cemetery on planet Earth, thank you very much, this is the place to go. It's a small 1-acre fenced-in cemetery with a single gate on the south side and a single path winding through the plot, through the actual cemetery. There's a stagnant pond that ties into this that lies just outside the northwest corner. It's overgrown and unkept, and it's subject to frequent vandalism, all right? Let's see. The grave and grave markers, they've been defaced, mutilated. The coffins have been disinterred and opened. People have thrown bones around this. People are very disrespectful, obviously, and always have been, if we're being honest. I love people. There's a lot of people I love dearly. But human beings as a whole, we're horrid. So there's been a lot of vandalism to this place over the years. There's been evidence of animal sacrifices near the lagoon and have been pointed out as a possible occult activities and rites practice. Now, I do want to say something about that statement of the animal sacrifices and the presence of occult activity. I am an occultist, and I am also a Wiccan high priest. I am a lover of the occult, and that kind of thing just doesn't happen in a desecrated cemetery like that. This is found around the suburbs, and when you find spray paint and vandalism, that's teenagers trying to be cool or trying to be occultists. If you're one of those teenagers, you're not. I know you think you are, but you're not. Thank you very much. This is 30 years experience talking, my brothers and sisters. No. Most occultists that I know, every pagan, I'll say every pagan I know for sure, is not going to sacrifice an animal. They're just not. Especially if they're Wiccan. It kind of goes against the grain, all right? My big problem is, though, is that it associates nefarious activity and crime with the occult. Now, I'll say it again. I know a lot of occultists. I don't know any of them that are this kind of that do this kind of ridiculous thing. I even know Satanists, and they're some of the nicest people I know, and they would never do something like this. I even met Anton LaVey. I was his waiter when I was a waiter at Denny's, believe it or not. He was trying to get a book signing for the Satanic Bible in the mall, in the Ceremony Mall. Hello. And when I asked him, "Oh, you're here for a book signing? What's the book?" He's like, "Oh, the Satanic Bible." They turned you down? I can't believe it. Anyway, I digress once again. But when you hear stuff like occult activity and that kind of thing, it always gives me pause. As somebody who is an actual occultist and an actual witch, high priest, Reverend Hagen, that's where I get the name, yada, yada, yada. Let's continue. So, I'm going to give you a little more background on this cemetery, because I've really gone down the rabbit hole, and we haven't really even started talking about it yet. The area was settled primarily with German immigrants. Many of them worked on the Illinois-Michigan Canal. The cemetery was first known as Everton Cemetery, with its first burial in 1844. No one knows why they gave it the name eventually Bachelors Grove Cemetery. Some people think because a lot of the guys that died were bachelors. Don't know if I buy that. More likely, I like this theory, that it's named for a German family like Bachelode. I think that makes a little bit more sense. During the Prohibition, bodies of the victims of the mobsters were dumped in the lagoon. Stories of paranormal activity began to proliferate, in the 1960s. Burials decreased by 1965, and the area became popular as Lover's Lane, thank you, and a gathering spot for young partiers looking to get some scares, basically. Idiots, that's when really the vandalism started. Idiots began overturning tombstones, desecrating and opening graves, scattering the bones. Who does that? God, that's just awful. Hauntings reached a peak in the 70s and 80s. The last recorded burial was 1989. Little of the strange phenomenon connected with this has any significant historical context, which is very strange. So there's nothing historically that happened there that would precipitate these hauntings. Is what most of the sites, even their literature for the cemetery says. But I'm telling you, if you've got a bunch of buried bodies and you scatter their bones around, what do you expect is going to happen? There's a great South Park where, I know I'm digressing again, but, a parallel universe gets brought into ours, ripped open, and they ask this pet owner, the guy who opened this pet shop, "Did you open this on an Indian burial ground?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, I dug up the bones and urinated on them, but What does that have to do with anything? So for me, it's the same kind of deal. If you're going to dig up all these bones on hallowed ground and scatter them around, what are you thinking? How do you not think this is going to become a haunted area? Some of the amazing stuff that does happen here. The big one is the lady in white. And I'm not talking about the supernatural lady in white that walks along the bridge I think it's the first or second episode. No. This is a lady in white that appears to be sitting by a grave of an infant, supposedly, as the legend goes. There's one picture that's going to be coming up here. Again, sorry if you're listening on the radio, of said lady, but it's a really controversial one. There's a few other pictures of supposed ghosts in the ceremony that people have caught, but none of the big legends that people have been talking about. One of the other things that's really that people see even more than the lady in white is it's orbs. These but specifically blue orbs. Most documented paranormal activity is the blue orb phenomenon, but not actually in the cemetery for the most part. The orbs are said to roam the entire graveyard area. You can find them in the cemetery, over a nearby pond, and along the pathway. Don't get me wrong, there have been a lot of sightings, I didn't mean to downplay it, in the cemetery as well as over the pond, but most people see these on the path going to the cemetery at night, which I thought was really interesting. Another one people have seen on more than one occasion is this farmer. And sometimes he is associated with a farmhouse, that in the distance they will see a farmhouse appear. Wild. And then a farmer can be seen roaming around the farmhouse. And as people have gotten closer, and it'll disappear, or there have been times where the farmer has looked at the people and kind of seen somebody looking at him, like he's actually acknowledging them. So this isn't a residual haunting. This is an interactive haunting. This is an actual haunting. And as soon as he sees somebody looking at him, he and the farm disappear. I thought it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating. The one that's really bizarre to me is the two-headed ghost. Now again, I know you think a lot of you think I'm probably tooting my own horn, but I'm not. It's just the amount of time that I've been doing investigations. Thank you for letting me have that drink of water. It helped a lot. So, I have never heard of a two-headed ghost in my life before. I've read legends about them, or there's different myths of two-headed demons or creatures, but a two-headed ghost? Wild. And it's been filmed, or not filmed, excuse me. It has been seen on more than one occasion, but as soon as people see it, they take off. It's insanity. Now, another one that they see quite a bit is the caretaker. But the caretaker appears at the beginning of the path to the cemetery, trying to warn people off, which I find really interesting. Almost like he knows something bad is there and he doesn't want you to see it. He's not usually aggressive, but occasionally he does have a shotgun, which freaks people out. But he's been seen, I think, over 20 times, which is a lot, and that's pretty wild. One of the other big legends is a black dog, a huge black dog. Now, the black dog myth, or the black dog experience, I guess I should say more correctly, has happened in Europe. It's happened pretty much in every continent on the planet. People have seen ghost black dogs or demon black dogs, however you want to put it. Some people think they're corporeal, that they are living things, and other people think they're ghosts. In this case, it's reported as a ghost. Half the time he appears with the caretaker, this giant black demon dog standing there with the caretaker growling. Now, no sound comes out of those two particular apparitions, but that's still really wild. Now remember, this is all, I mean, it's like 100-foot path to the cemetery, and then a 1-acre cemetery with a little lagoon. All this stuff's happening in a very small area. I would love, I'm going to have to make it down there at one point, honestly. Which is why I need more patrons from Patreon. Just check out the Patreon page. Feel like donating to the cause to make the show better, that's fantastic. If you don't, hope you still subscribe and like it, because I love doing it. But it's such a small area to have that much activity going on, right? Absolutely amazing. The other one that I thought was very strange is around, I'll just read it to you. It says, the last spirit is also the most newly discovered. In 2009, a local ghost hunter wanted to capture the Madonna by the Fulton tombstone. That's the lady in white. But instead he found something else, the Yellow Man. While the ghost hunter was setting up, ghost hunters, I guess it was a group, was setting up their equipment, they heard somebody by the Shields family plot. When she turned around, she saw the yellow apparition of a man dressed in the 1930s clothing. Since then, a yellow light has manifested with the blue lights throughout the cemetery as well as the path. Now, that's a little disconcerting to me, and I'll tell you why. One person sees a yellow man, and now people are seeing yellow globes, and now just not in the cemetery, but on the path. People are very suggestive. Who knows? I don't know what group this was. I don't know what validity they have. There's a lot of paranormal groups out there that do a lot of really fantastic investigation and really good research, and there's a lot that don't. I love the ones on TV. I think they're fantastic. Some of those guys have been caught cheating, which is just really bothers me. It's such a two-edged sword, because they've done so much to bring the paranormal out to everyday people, but at the same time, if they're going to fake evidence, they make all of us look like idiots. Our group doesn't worry about it. Again, like I mentioned all the time, we don't publish any of our findings. We don't cite any of our sources. We're just there to help people. And I know people will hear that and go, well, you're ridiculous then. But these are the same people that say that I'm more of a skeptic than I am an investigator, which is crazy. I love the paranormal. When actual stuff is going on, I still get excited as I do the first time I experienced it. I really do. But if there's a logical explanation, or if I'm watching something on YouTube and I go, oh, well, dang it, that's how they did it. Like when you see things move in 90% of the videos on YouTube, when they're saying they caught a paranormal event. The only way that chair is moving, or whatever happens to be moving, just happens to be the one place where somebody could be hiding, pulling it on a string. And I'm not saying that's true for every single one out there. It's just frustrating as somebody who's been an investigator for 30 years to not immediately, to see it and just immediately go, oh, come on, man. Especially when I'm watching it with my youngest. Because I'm breaking it apart. He'll think something's really cool, and then I go, well, actually, I hate to say it, but because I can't let it go. If it's not real, I can't let it go. So Bachelors Cemetery. We're going to go over it one more time. Just the highlights. You got the blue orbs. You got the lady in white. You've got the farmer. You've got the farmhouse and the farmer. You got the caretaker. You got the black dog. You've got a two-headed ghost. Thank you. And you've got something else that and then the yellow. I'm not buying it. I'm not buying the Yellow Man. Do I think that this is a haunted place? I do. Enough regular people have been terrified by what's going on in this cemetery. Now, cemeteries are inherently creepy, right? But people have been reporting this since the 60s. Now, I was born in 65, so that doesn't seem all that long ago to me. But I have to remember that from 1960 to now is 60 years, right? I mean, that's a long time for this stuff to be happening. And the amount of deaths that were, amount of people that were buried there, the amount of deaths associated with this place, like the mobsters from Chicago throwing people into the lagoon. For me, I think there's something going on. I'd really like to investigate it. I'll buy all of this, because even the blue lights, right, the blue orbs, I'll totally buy. Now, a lot of people will send me pictures, and this has been happening for years, of orbs. They think they've caught tons of orbs. And they ask me my opinion. And in my opinion, 90% or more are dust particles reflecting off the light of the camera. Literally 90% of them. An actual orb, right? A paranormal orb has its own light source. Okay? It gives off light. It doesn't reflect the light. You don't see, even if you can see through it, most of them you can't. They're solid, and you see them with the naked eye. It's not just something you catch on a camera. The Skinwalker Ranch, tons of orb stories there. I've only seen orbs twice, and they were both in the woods. And it was really creepy. It wasn't a flashlight. It couldn't have been a house off in the distance. But the way they're describing these, I'm actually buying. The lady in white, I believe people have seen it. I don't know if I believe that particular picture or not. I love the story, anyway, of the farmer in the farmhouse. That a ghost sees you looking at it and then bails with the farmhouse is pretty remarkable to me. So that's Bachelors Cove Cemetery in Chicago. I really am glad you stopped by. I hope you enjoyed the show. Apologize again for my gravelly voice. It has to do with my autoimmune stuff. As it gets later, my voice gets tired. I do apologize. I would like to thank our listeners for tuning in at SCRMradio.com. That's Scream. Radio.com for all your horror and paranormal needs. If you do have a paranormal event that you've experienced, send it in to me. One of the new shows is going to be me. It's going to be an actual separate show from Off the Beaten Path. Me telling your experiences on the show. And again, I'm going to leave your names out. You don't have to worry about publicity or anything like that. Or if you've got any footage of anything paranormal, or if UFOs, keep your eyes on the sky. See if you can find anything that's strange and unusual to you. Please send that in. As always, like, comment, and subscribe. We're trying to get monetized on this station. I hate to be mercenary about this, but I'd love to be able to do this show full time. Go to some of these sites. If you are interested in helping this channel keep going, you can become a patron at Patreon. The link is below. You can do a one-time donation or a monthly donation, whatever floats your boat, if that's something that you want to do. And again, it's been a pleasure. My dog Lily's been asleep the whole time. She's no help at all, if I'm being honest. Keep safe during this madness. Keep the social distancing going until we know what's happening. Your rights are not being taken away. They're just asking you to be safe for a bit more. I think we can all handle it. And as always, my brothers and sisters, you keep those heads up. Have a good night.